Today I wish to begin my reflection not with the gospel, but with the responsorial psalm, which is taken from one of my favorite psalms in the Bible, Psalm 90, which is a meditation on the shortness of life. A few weeks ago, I think I shared to you that a lady had asked me to bless her father's cremated remains, which were contained in a ceramic urn. She actually opened the lid of the urn so that I could sprinkle holy water on the ashes of her father. Before I did so, I stooped to peer inside. I was surprised to find out that the urn was only about half full. I was suddenly gripped by the thought that that is all that will remain materially of our bodies. A few handfuls of ashes. It's a very humiliating thought. Exactly what the psalmist is trying to tell us in the psalm that we heard today. And let me quote portions of it. It says, "You turn us back to dust and say, 'Return, O mortal.' 1,000 years in your eyes are merely a day gone by, like a watch in the night. You sweep them away like a dream. In the morning they spring up like grass, but by evening they wither and fade. Our life is over like a sigh. 70 is the number of our years, or 80 if we are strong. And most of these are fruitless toil. They pass quickly and we are gone." And then it ends with a prayer. Teach us to number our days aright, so that we may gain wisdom of heart. The last few lines are like an echo of our first reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. In Hebrew, Kohelet, basically the same name rendered in Greek, Ecclesiastes. I used to react to this reading, and I always wondered why it got included in the Bible at all. Because I always regarded it as very negative and very cynical. Can you imagine saying, "Vanity of vanities, all things are vanity"? You know, there is one translation, the Christian Community Bible, which makes it sound even worse. It says, meaningless. Meaningless. All things are meaningless. Wow. It was not until much later that I realized that this shocking piece of poetry actually belongs to the wisdom literature. It is intended to make us ask ourselves, what is it in this material world that we can hold on to that can make us truly happy? The writer engages you first in something like a long devil's advocate kind of argumentation that eventually makes you realize the secret of true happiness. And that is never to hold on to anything in this world as if it were your everything. Never to hold on to anything in this passing world as your everything. Because if you lose it, you are lost yourself. The book of Ecclesiastes gives wisdom by teaching us to develop a good attitude, a proper perspective in life. You know, a few days ago, I was listening to the American actress and writer Emily Levine, who gave a much acclaimed TED lecture, which you can access anytime on YouTube. I think the thoughts that she shared in that lecture are a good example of the kind of attitude that both Psalm 90 and the opening lines of the book of Ecclesiastes are trying to tell us. You know, she began by saying, I have stage 4 lung cancer. And I know you might say to me, oh, poor you. But I don't feel that way. I'm okay with it, she said. I don't understand. I simply just don't understand the mindset of people who are out to defeat death or to overcome death. How do you do that? She said. How do you defeat death without killing off life? It does not make sense to me, she said. I also have to say, she says, I find it incredibly ungrateful. I mean, you are given this extraordinary gift, life. And it comes with an expiration date. It's not like we did not know it. And she goes on, I don't understand. To me, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to nature. The idea that we are going to dominate nature, that we're going to master nature. No, she says, I don't think so. So here's how it looks from my point of view, from my mindset, she says. First of all, I am incredibly grateful for life. You know, I look at death now as part of what that writer, what Weber calls the gift of economy. You are given this enormous gift of life. You enrich it as best you can, and then you give it back. Levine ends by saying, life is a banquet, and well, I have eaten my fill, she says. I have had an enormous appetite for life. I consumed life, she says. But in death, I am going to be consumed. I am going into the ground, just the way I am. And there, I invite every microbe and every decomposer to have their fill. I think they will find me delicious, she says. And the audience gave a hearty laughter. You know, I found it amazing how she could make her audience laugh at death in a manner that has so much reverence for life. She made me understand why it is important every now and then to be reminded of the shortness of life, to befriend our death, to come to terms with our own mortality. It actually makes us value life even more. Maybe that is what the author of the psalm means when he ends his meditation on the shortness of life with that prayer, teach us, O Lord, to number our days aright, so that we may gain wisdom of heart. We will never gain that wisdom of heart until we have come to terms with our mortality. This is probably why we refer to dying in our Judeo-Christian tradition as a passing on. Dumadaan lang tayo. I am reminded of that famous line the famous lines that our parish priest inscribed on a wall facing the sacristy of our church in Betis, Pampanga. I really thought back then that Anonymous was the name of the author. It was not until high school that I learned that anonymous meant that the author was unknown. How strange, I later thought to myself, that a man's words could be still remembered even long after his name has been forgotten. And the saying is familiar to you. They made it into a liturgical song in Tagalog entitled, "Minsan lang ako daraan sa mundong ito." In English, it says, "I shall pass through this world but once. If there is any good, therefore, that I can do, or any act of kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not neglect it or postpone it for another day, for I shall never pass this way again."